have one more meeting. One more meeting before the end of the year in December, so we are looking forward to that. And the other announcement I want to make is that we have lightning talks
One
coming up.
more meeting.
Whoa.
One more.
Great. I know.
Sorry. Sorry, Andrew. Great. Thank you. So we have one more meeting, or sorry, we are doing lightning talks in January. So I will drop that right here. So we have done this for a number of years now, that the first meeting of the new year is a meeting of lightning talks. And what this means is that people like you from our community prepare a talk that's 5 to 7 minutes in length. And, you can talk about like a data science concept, on R package you learned how to use. Maybe if you're someone who uses R to do research in your uses art in your research, like a little bit about that. So I encourage you, especially if you are a local Utah R user, to submit. It's like a low stress environment to give a talk, and maybe to start polishing a talk if you have one. So please take a look at that and please submit. We would love to hear that. We probably will. We typically just have Salt Lake or Utah people giving talks at that. We try to, since that's the main focus of our group here, that tends to be who we have highest priority for, just as an FYI. All right, so those are the announcements I think we have today, and I'm really excited to introduce our speaker today. So our speaker today is Emil Wiedbelt. So Emil is a software engineer at Posit, like me, one of my fellow coworkers, and Emil is part of the Tidy Models team, focusing on improving the ability to build models with R. Emil is a package maintainer for packages in machine learning and modeling, text analysis, and color palettes. But today, Emil, what you're talking about is specifically creating slides. So it's maybe not exactly your day job kind of stuff, but something that we all do so many times. And Emil, your slides are always amazing. And so I'm really glad to have you here talking to us about slide crafting, the new verb we're all using, with Quarto. So thanks so much, Emil.
All right. Thank you so much for that kind introduction. Before I just get started all the way, I'm gonna echo what Julia said and tell people to do the lightning talks, because that's always the best type of talks. I love lightning talks. There's nothing better than it.
Me too. I love them.
And even if you don't like, even if one of them isn't exactly within your interest, it's a 5 minute wait, and then you move on to another one. And the best thing ever. All right. And you can ask questions during, or like hold them to the end. A lot of times it's nice dealing with the questions, especially in this talk, as they come, because it would be about something on the screen, so we'll already be there. All right, yeah. So I'll be talking about what I like to call slide crafting, which is creating slides to make the experience as nice as possible. And we'll be using Quarto. So Quarto, which some of you might have heard about, it's an open source scientific and technical publishing system built on Pandas. And if that feels a little bit familiar, it's because it's the next iteration of R Markdown. So R Markdown is one of the best thing that really happened in the R world, creating documents of various types in a very like, easy to do way, but being able to expand it into other languages was a little bit weird and hard, because if you're a Python user, it's really hard to convince a Python user to install R to do something in addition. It's like, well, why do I have to also install R? So Portal came from years of knowledge and learnings to create something that's independent of R and works with uh, of many more languages. And we can kind of see it right here. So we have like Jupyter Notebook support. On the left side, we have like a Jupyter Notebook that has various different things. And we can create pages with um, with Quarto. And it also supports like the general like knitter a markdown format. It looks very similar. There's a couple of different changes, but it mostly looks the same. But because it's not tied down into R specifically, it also allows um, people that use Julia or like observable to do whatever they really want to do. So it's an awesome tool. It's constantly adapting, getting better and better. And we're only at the very beginning of the the use of this right now. But what I will be talking about specifically today is Quarto creates a bunch of different types of document, and one of them uses Reveal.js as a way to create slides. And that's what you're also seeing here. I'm creating slides with Quarto and Reveal.js. And so what is happening is we're writing a Quarto document that is then being transformed into something Reveal.js understands. And then that creates the slides we see here, which are HTML type slide. And because where I think this is really strong, and this is very similar to the way Syringin worked back in the day, but it's just a different backend. And what becomes really powerful is we get all these Pandas and Quarto features, but we also result in HTML. So anything you can do on a website or with HTML transfers into like we can use that in our slides, which creates a weird balance that you're never finished, which is like a problem I have too. Well, you start writing slides, and there's always a little bit more you can add because you're never finished. So you have this great power with like a limited space. But as we see, left-hand side is what a typical is how a Reveal.js type document looks in Quarto. So then we have a .qmd file, and we set the format to Reveal.js. That lets Quarto know I want to write slides. And we have a title, so here we see the title. And if we then go forward, we see that each new slide here is being denoted by two pound keys. And then whatever it says after is the title and the information coming in. So you can see, and it knows things about like code. So here we have like a R code chart. So it knows to evaluate it and then code out the results. Which then means that here we're just doing a simple 1+1, but you can embed like statistical analysis or plus directly into your document, which is the whole idea about writing documents with Quarto. You don't have to copy paste things around. Um, with the basics of the way there's a couple of little threads I like to use that are more, but some like first one. First one is quite specific to Reveal.js, is where we have this idea of columns. So when you write a slide, a lot of times you end up with things hanging on the left-hand side of your slides. And sometimes you want to do two columns for various reasons. You might want to put like input and output, pros and cons, code and output, and we can use columns for that. So we define here a like a pan dot blood, I think it's called. So like three colons, and then we div it. So that defines a div in the HTML setting, and we div it class columns. And then inside we just add a couple of columns, and you can see here we're setting the width as well. So here I did a 50-50, but you could change it to 2080. You can do 30-40-30. You can do whatever you want as long as that looks good. But you're not constrained from anything. We can also do, which I find really helpful, especially when you want to add a little bit more, the idea of absolute positioning. So we're adding some pictures of my cats, and you do that how you normally do the syntax, but then adding these braces afterwards. We div the class absolute, and then we can specify the position. So it just appears where it needs to appear. So we div it at a top, bottom, left, right argument, and you div some widths. And it can be like if you just put a number and it's the pixels, but you can also do things with percentages, and it just like knows what to do. So this is how to get something to be just the right place. This is one thing that's surprisingly hard if you've ever done websites is centering something. And um, especially centering in this setting is kind of awkward because each slide is just a website page, but it could go past the bottom of the page. So making something appear just in the center uh, vertically is quite tricky. So it has this extra argument. So you can div the whole slide, the center class, and it will use JavaScript behind the everything to make sure everything's like centered just right up and down, which is surprisingly hard to do if you didn't do that. And it only works on a whole slide level, but it's a nice way of just making something happen very neatly. And lastly, um, here I'm combining two different things. So we have the centering, which makes sure everything's like in the center of the top, it's center of the slide up and down. And then there's this r-fit-text class. You can put around something, and it just makes the text as big as it could be within this region. And yeah, and there's like another, I really like this as a way to start a set of slides. So if you want to write a very easy title slide, you put, you can put center in it, and then you can put just a fit text or something, and it has some words and it just fits just right. You don't have to tinker around making sure everything works well. So it's a very fast, easy slide to start with. And there's many more documentation is great on the Quarto website. So you've got quarto.org, and you can search. It has fairly great search, and it has everything listed in there if you need anything. So when you start working on a set of slides, you have all your content in there. You used columns, used all the different things, but you still have the default theme. There is a couple of built-in themes. So you can say theme Cosmo, and it changes something, or theme North, I think, to it. Like another one that changes things, but you might want to do things your own. And I think colors and fonts is really where you can start working on um, defining your own theme. And I go on Pinterest. That's where my go-to finding great colors for slides is Pinterest. Go in, you can search color palettes. If you have a specific theme in mind or a vibe, you put it in and other people have ideas too. And from there, use a color picker, pull them out, and you will have to adjust a little bit, but getting the right feeling there, Pinterest is great. because there's like a million of these color palettes created online. So it's great. Um, Same thing. And so you paid all your colors. So you need to think a little bit careful about how you use the color. So I like recommend that if you're starting out, you want to have like two, maybe three main colors. And so this would be like here, you see the background is at a nice like dark red, and there's gonna be a green one too. So you have a couple of those colors, and then you need your text color as well. And you want a high contrast. So here it's this website is very nice. It's color contrast.cc. You put in the two colors, and it will let you know how great the contrast is. But you want people to be able to see and read the text on the screen. So if you want great contrast, you get into this situation where you either want really dark backgrounds or really light backgrounds. So you can't do like some colors just don't work well for a background because there isn't enough colors that contrast well enough for it. And it's an accessibility issue. So like you want to make sure that this is fairly on point. Um, and color contrast things are annoying because it also depends on the size of the text. So you need higher contrast for smaller text because it needs less. So that's another thing to worry about. And that's also a great point about most of you, when you get started, use too small text sizes on your slides. That you generally want a fairly big font size. I think I try to use like a 40 point size. And it's a little weird, but sometimes online, sometimes in person. Generally, you want a bigger font size than you think. Also, because if you're giving a talk, people should listen to what you say instead of reading what it says on the slides. And then this is also more of a giving talk kind of setting. Some people use slides as a medium of transporting information. Then it might be fine to have more and smaller text. So you need to think about the medium you are giving the talk in as well. For fonts, I'm also very basic. I don't Google fonts and look around, and you can like search by popularity. You can search by trendiness. Some weird things pop up here once in a while. I have a, and I just save the ones I have. This is also because I try not to spend money on fonts for talks, but otherwise it ends up being a lot of money. But you can also like there's many really good paid for fonts in the world that can fit your aesthetic just right. So once you have decided the theme you're going with, here I went on Christmas, so we have some greens and reds. Um, Once you have everything set down, you need to use that in your slides. And Reveal.js with Quarto allows us to use these things called SAS variables. So if you know CSS is a way of formatting how a web page needs to look, with like colors and fonts and sizes and all of that. There's this like extension of CSS called like the SCSS or SASS, but like we have these that allows us to do things for variables and if and not statements, stuff like that, and do a little bit of math with it to work with it more programmatically. And we have, I'm gonna show a little bit better here because we have all these variables that define things like colors and fonts and the sizes of the different headings, how code needs to load different areas, bunch of different information about bunch of different information about different areas of the uh, the slideshow itself, which means we can actually change the style fairly easily with very little. So in our YAML chunk at the top of our document, we say, hey, I'm adding a theme. I call it a style.css. This is the file I have right here. And we can add just a little bit of CSS, and it makes a big difference. So we're adding we're importing this crimson text font we're using. You find that once you select the font on Google Fonts, it clicks on buttons and it tells you what to copy paste into your file. And then we're specifying everything else. So here we're specifying what is it? The, the standard font family of the slide should be this crimson text. The root size of the fonts should be 46. And setting the root size is really neat way of doing it because it means that everything else is bigger. So that the header, like a big header, might be 2.5 times the root. And a second header is like 2 times. So you can define things like relationally, which means that we set the root and then everything else changes accordingly. So if you then decide, a little too big, you change it one place, then everything else takes down. And we see it's not linked color. So then like now the slide is a little bit different, but we used a different font size and different text font. But we can also change other things like the background color. So here, background, it's not great background color right now, but showing you like to here, it's technically 5 lines of code, and we already changed the font, the sizes, and a couple of colors. What I like to do when I set up a new slide that is to to make the the style document as nice as possible. I create these like human readable variable names of the different colors I put in. So it's like they all start with like theme, and then something it's theme yellow, theme pink, theme brown. You create all of those at the top, and then we can use those later down the line. So like here, I'm saying that the selection background should be pink, and we're using just the same pink. So ideally, for the rest of our style sheet, we don't inline color values, because we can just use them right here. And it has fit. You can also do slight variations, so it also allows us to lighten a color by like 20% or darken a color by a little bit. So you can that by specifying just a couple of colors and then say, oh, this side should be a little bit different colors, but I'll just lighten it a smidge. So then we're not hard coding anything down the line. So all the changes are easier. And then once I set everything up, another common thing I do too is create a couple of custom classes. So here I'm creating like a blue class and a teal class with just a way of specifying um, color to our slides. So here, if I want to highlight a word being, oh, look, this word, I can div just that specific word or series of words, the blue class, and it shows up in blue. Or I could put like a painted blot around more text and also give it a color. So it's a way of highlighting things neatly if you want, instead of bolding or making things italics. And it's if you do it right, you can get a nice flow in everything. Another thing that's very important, which I touched on before, is the amount of stuff you have on your slides. So this is the first time I used like a chat GPT style thing. So I asked it to say a lot about colors, sizes, and fonts. And this is what it ends up with. You end up with a lot of information, and this is too much. You can't have the people watching read this and understand what you're saying at the same time. So it's one or the other, and that's probably too much right here. So what we don't try to use those principles. Like we want to, and the font size is too small. Like depending on if you're sitting in the back, like on the 12th row, you can't read this. It's too small. It's not the right medium for it. And so we can do a little bit with a lot. So here, it's basically the same thing as before. It's all the same information, just very condensed. And we have snow and little images too, but we're changing some colors. We're adding like a dark red color background. And we're moving things around a little bit. And we're really highlighting the big part of the what that slide tried to say. Tried to say that we can do a lot just by changing the color sizes and fonts of things. And there's like really a lot of just making slides. This is what we did from it. Another thing we also have is positioning matters so much, especially when we do images. And positioning isn't that hard. Like um, the way we do it is we use the absolute tag. So just I have my position matters, and then I'm set doing a left and a right, the left and the top position, and that is what makes the text happen. We now do a little bit more. I really like this frosted glass effect, which is then just CSS. So it happens because this backdrop filter blurs the background, and then a little bit of a border. So we have this like with very little effort, we are getting like a little bit of a statement piece right here. Um, if you wanna um, level up a little bit in the way you create your slides, and you have a theme in mind that you want to do the here make the Christmas theme, but you also have a corporate theme where you have a handful of different types of slides, and instead of writing in the HTML and Java and CSS for each slide. I have 5 different types of slides. Let me formalize this in a way that made sense. So we can do that. So we can say, here, I'm making my slide theme number 2. So then we're using human readable classes. So it's like dot theme dash slide and then 2. So you can have like dot theme dash slide 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then within that, we can give it specific style thing. So here I'm adding a background, that specific asset from somewhere. I'm saying that the H3 header should be blue. And I'm moving everything over just a smidge from the left. Because this asset, it is an example, to add some stuff to the left-hand side. So we need to move everything a little bit over so we don't have the objects on the slide overlapping with the background elements right here. So we have this like nested nest to work with our SCSS class, which makes like it's just a breeze to do a lot of these different things. We can also have this different mix in. So when I'm writing this thing, I end up copy pasting these background size, position, repeat all the time. So instead of copy pasting that all the way around, we add a mix in. So we say whenever I want to alter this, I call it a background fall. It's a mid-sim, and you just include it in, and it just takes all of that and just plug it in. So you can like factorize your style sheet as well. which then means that now you have a document that looks like this. So there's basically no CSS left in your main Quarto document. You specify which of the theme slides you have. So you have a title one, you have a slide one, then we do a section two because we have sections two, and then a couple of slides. So pre-specifying all of this means that it takes a little while, that everything's set up front. But at the end, it means that you can hammer out a set of slides very fast because all the theming is taken care of. And this is like one I've made. The link is in the footer as well. This was a little bit fancy because there's animation in the background, but the idea is still the same. So you have a couple of the title ones, and you have a section one here. It's pre-made. So here I know that in the theme section one, we have a very big uh, like earth on the right-hand side. So it knows the margin to cut off the text to stop it from going over. So if you carefully draft these like slide classes, once you have the theme, you can write the slides very fast. But you never have to think about colors, fonts, or anything. It's all taken care of. Um, yeah. Another thing I made, which I'm very happy about. So if you ever tried using both Reveal.js slides and Syringian slides, you notice that the where things are on the slide in a Reveal.js thing, the background just stretches to fit whatever you have. But it means that if you resized the slide, things might look different where you position it because everything's like moved just a smidge depending on the orientation and ratio of the monitor or projector you're using. Whereas Windows didn't have that issue because it had these gray backgrounds around. So I made this Reveal.js like template that tried to fix that. So now when you move it around, the 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 plot like the slide area has a fixed ratio, and if the overarching window you're using it doesn't match, it creates this gray background around it to make sure everything is perfectly positioned. So now when you're in there, you can add like text on one side and an image perfectly on the other side. And when you move things around, everything is crisp, like perfect. This is something you can't do in Reveal.js. So this is where I have this in case you really want like crisp positioning. Another thing I love in um, Reveal.js is this idea of fragments. So this is where we're adding a little bit of flair to our slides. So here we have, on the left-hand side, we have the document. So we have three different fragments. One says fade in, one says fade out, one says highlight red. So when we then advance, it executes the first one and it defaults by fading in. We can also say fade out. So if you move forward, it fades out. And move forward, it highlights red. And there's a bunch more. You can like add like you can highlight something, you can make things fade in, fade out, you can make things happen at the same time. It defaults to doing things in the order they appear one at a time, but you can do different indexes. So you can have multiple different things fade in or multiple different things fade out or change color. You can also create your own. It comes with like a dozen different ones fading in out, couple of color things, but you can make your own as well. And it might seem like very like, oh, there's a lot happening right here, but you don't need a lot. So in this example, I'm creating a thing I call highlight orange. And when I say highlight, I think of highlighter. So I want the background to change. So it starts by having full opacity. It just needs to look normal when it starts, and then when it triggers, we change the background color to the orange we specified earlier. So when you do create your own, you copy paste this and you change this name right here that appears twice. And then you have a new theme, and then you can specify whatever it CSS you want, and that is applied when you do it forward. So now it's sample. We now have custom highlighters that can then fit in your theme because you might not want this red color it defaults with. You want to use colors that fit in your whole color palette. And so now we're getting towards the end where a lot of the fun happens. So these slides have an underlying Reveal.js API. So it's a JavaScript object right here that has these slides, and you can do things with it. And I do, oh, no, let's probably do that. So there's an object right now in this set of slides that you could trigger with JavaScript to that thing. So you can move back, like move across the slides. You can also that things like slide positioning and where you are in the slides. Um, what they have too is you can also add some JavaScript with your slides and have things happen when different things happen. So you can say whenever a slide is changed, trigger whatever is right here. And you can make whatever happen when you select change the slide. You can also make an arbitrary JavaScript code run whenever you resize the window. But what the entryway of starting working with this is changing things when a fragment is shown and a fragment is hidden. So that is what you kind of seen a little before right here. So I advanced, but there's an embedded presentation inside that's changing. And I'm doing this by using fragments. So I'm creating this fragment called advanced slide. So whenever a fragment is shown, I look to see if that fragment is an advanced slide fragment. And if that's the case, then I jump in to the slide and find the iframe that contains the reveal object inside, and I go right. So advance inside. And because it needs to be symmetric, if I go backwards, it also needs to go backwards inside. So it does the same thing for the left-hand side. So that's how I did those embedded slides. And this is what it looks like on my side. I have my custom fragments HTML, which is a file that includes the JavaScript you just saw. I include it after the body. And then I add the embedded slice as an iframe. And then I have these three fragments that advance. Um, so here it will start on the first slide and then advance 3 times when you move forward. And if you go backwards, it will undo it. And I think this is where it really starts to shine. You can add a lot of different cool interactive things. And that is all I have for you today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Emil. I I just love these slides, especially with the little drifting snowflakes.
I
They're
know. I was a little worried that they would be distracting.
I don't think so. I don't think so. The only time they really distracted me was when they went behind the frosted glass, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that looks so cool."
It took a surprising amount of time making sure it was behind where
Behind.
I
Yeah.
wanted it. I couldn't get it behind this because this is technically a background image,
Ah, yeah, yeah,
and I tried for too long to make
yeah.
it behind, and it didn't. So we just had to deal with it.
Yeah, yeah, that's excellent. All right, so if you have a question for folks, start to type it in, or you can use the little raise hand gesture if you want to say your question. I will kick off the questions here by asking you when you are working on a new talk, um, do you tend to like get kind of all the content in and then kind of work on styling it, or do you tend to be like, I got to figure out what I'm going to do style wise, and then I'm going to make my then I will work on it. How do you tend to approach that kind
Yes,
of
that's a great
prep?
question. What works for me is I do all the styling first. So I did an idea of beach theme, and then I made beach theme, and then
Is your job beach, Emil?
yes, no, my job is slide.
There's your job is slide.
Um, so I made all the changes as I can, like change all the colors, all the fonts, all the things I imagined that I would need, and then I stop, and then I write content,
Okay.
and then you can time block yourself to like however long time you want. So you can get very far in like 15 minutes by
Yeah.
using the SAS variables
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because you have to do um like you just need to change like, oh, this font, this color, this size, boom, you already like a lot
Yeah.
the way there. And then of
Yeah.
course finding the colors and fonts is hard. If for some people. But
Yeah.
I'm not great at finding great ones. I steal a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but
Nice.
no, I find because then what then when I'm done with styling, then I'm in content mode
Yeah.
and I don't have to worry about, oh, should this be this type of red or this type of red? And then
Yeah.
you might end up doing like a little bit of cleanup at the end, realizing, oh, this didn't look great. I'll update it. But generally, I want to do styling and content.
Yeah. Ava wants to ask a question about converting Jeringen slides to Quarto. Specifically, I think Ava's asking, is there some automated way to do this? Have you ever taken something that was Jeringen slides before and then converted it to Quarto? What do you think? What do you think?
As far as I know, I don't think there's an automatic way. You, where the issue, so they both are like Markdown based. So you could like changing a little bit in the YAML to instead of saying a syringe, make it say like format with VLJS and change it to a Quarto document. It should render technically,
Yeah.
but the way you do new slide in syringe is different than the way you make new slides in VLJS. So you have to kind of do it manually. But a lot of it, and then you have the issue of like if you do any kind of styling, it doesn't transfer
Yeah. Yeah.
because the classes are taught different things. But a lot of content is very generic. It's, oh, I use some R code to make a plot, or I use a bulleted list, and all of that is like transfers right over.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no, as far as I know, there's not a one line of transport everything over.
Yeah. I think I don't know one either. And I am someone who has converted things over. I'll drop a link into the I'll drop a link into the oh, let me see if I can mute that first. There we go. So that link there is something that used to be our Markdown and Jeringen slides, and then I converted it over to Quarto. And so the slides are down there under slides. And so what the process was like, I did not do it in an automated way, but I didn't have to change much of the content. It was only like, what am I doing at the top? Like what am I, how can I, change the styling, but I didn't have to change like all the content over.
But the one thing that happens is in Syringin, you have a specific new style operator, a new slide operator, where VLJS it's based on the headings.
Yeah,
So like you can't do a level one and level two heading at the same time in the same slide because one denote a new section, one denote a new slide. So that becomes iffy, but mostly it's fairly easy.
yeah, yeah. So Michael has a question about how do I access files in a folder outside the folder that contains the Quarto document? And I actually think this is also something that Quarto is not set up to do. You can use it by full URL. Like if you have some resource that's somewhere that you need to include that's like in a full URL, that certainly you can include. But I think Quarto, I don't know
It's
that.
not great at detecting what's needed. If you
Yeah,
use a better thing like in a website, I don't know, you can use a resources
yeah,
argument to
yeah,
specify, here, I want these things, but it doesn't work in slides right now.
yeah,
I
yeah,
complained
yeah.
about it, and I think they're fixing it eventually. But there's not a easy way of saying, hey, I want to include this file as well.
Yeah, I think that's right. So I think you do right now, you need to like copy it in to
Yeah.
where you're working. All right. Multiple people interested in, hey, I have a PowerPoint template. My work has PowerPoint, like a branded PowerPoint template. What are my options? What are options for these folks? Wait,
So you can use, I'm putting it in the chat, you can use um, a PowerPoint template with Quarto, but it is somehow limited in the sense that you can only specify, I think there's like seven different types of slides. So you can create like you can have your reference document, which is a like a document a PowerPoint document that has the themes labeled in it, and you can then so you can create slides with a special PowerPoint thing, but it's fairly limited compared to what you can do here with what I've shown. But it
but it
works
lets
fairly
you, I
well.
mean, it lets you make slides using text versus copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. You can like,
Yeah.
yeah,
And it's better than what we had with Armageddon.
Barrington.
Armageddon
Yeah,
had
yeah,
four layouts, and now we have seven. So we're doing better.
yeah.
And
Oh,
it
yeah, yeah,
honestly has most of what you need. It has like a title slide. It has like just a normal thing with like text and more text. Has like two like columns. So it has most of what you really need
yeah.
to do like drawing.
Yeah. Oh, Mark, is this right? Mark says actually, if you use self-contained equals true, you can use the stuff in the other folders. That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
That is nice.
Yeah,
It does mean that that really bad. It can get like quite bad depending on what you
the
do.
file, the HTML
Yeah.
file. Yeah,
Like, so if you have multiple slides in the same directory, you would like to avoid self-contained because then everything's copied into both instead of separately. But here it solved the issue.
yeah. All right, Greg has a question about building up plots iteratively. Say on one slide you show a histogram, and then the next slide you add a like where is the median? Like you put it on top of the median. Right now, Greg is doing what I do, which is copy the code over and over and keep generating. Is there any kind of automated way to do that, like with fragments or something like that? I'm not aware of a way, but
I
I
know
do what
how to.
Greg does, which is I make the I make the plot over and over with the additions in it.
Yeah, I think that's the way to do it really. One thread I have is you can use the output location emitter argument. So if you say Because the problem also you have like if you want to do toad and tat next to each other, you used to have to like do like a lot of like weird things to make sure that it looked neat. But you can just do like you can just say output rotation column, and then you don't need to create two things. It just knows, oh, this thing is one side column, this side other side column. So it or like you can make it automatically just appear on the next slide. So that is a very handy shortcut that works in Reveal.js.
Yeah. Seth is asking about Pandoc and going between Pandoc, our friend, super good at like converting between things. Can Pandoc go from Reveal.js to PowerPoint?
I don't think so because I don't think Reveal.js is technically uh let's see Reveal.js.
Reveal.
I don't think it's technically using Panda. They have their own
If
code.
you have the markdown, if you can get the markdown, oh no, yeah. If you have the markdown, I think I'm gonna share this.
Yeah. One
Uh,
thing that Reveal.js has, which is way better than other things, is if you I can show if you're in the slide, you open the menu. If it's not present, you press M. Tools, PDF export mode. Doesn't look great for me. Okay. Then and then you do like Command P. It unless you do a lot of weird things, it typically actually looks pretty good.
yeah, getting PDF that way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sometimes if you do like weird things like me, it's a little, but if you have stainless slides, it looks really great. Like it just knows how to do make things happen and it looks great. So it has a way better PDF output than previous things.
yeah, yeah,
No, I don't know because PDF no PowerPoint is a whole different format. There's very little things we can do outside. Well, we
yeah.
could, but it's a lot of work making
Yeah, yeah.
things.
Yeah, Abby reminded me of if you back to that question of like building up a plot iteratively and you're showing it on slides. If you're using ggplot2 for that, you can save your base plot as an object and then keep adding to it just with like single lines of code. That doesn't work as well if you're, using a different kind of plotting, like if you're using base R plotting or something. But
Yes.
but yeah, that's a great way. That's a great way to go. Nice. Great. So, Emil, does anybody else, you can type another question or raise your hand or anything. Stefan.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for your presentation. One of the challenges I have, or I find very interesting, and I don't know how to start, is what would be resources to learn CSS and JS to deal with it? Because I find it so exciting to do the presentations in Reveal JS because you learn all these other technologies, but it's kind of hard to like break into it sometimes if it's just, you want to quickly center something on your slide and then, I don't know, it's just a rabbit hole.
Stefan, that was going to be my closing question to Emil. So thank you so much for for asking that. Because Emil, one thing I've noticed is that you do have a fair amount of that knowledge, and I'm wondering how you gained it. What do you recommend? How do you kind of get started? So yeah, let's call this our final question here. Emil, how do we learn CSS?
Oh, I don't have a good. It's not a very motivating answer because a lot of times just stems from, oh, I wish I could do this, and then just Google how to do that. So it's not a very structured way of learning.
So would you say like you can say you're like self-taught? There weren't any particular like
Like I search whenever I don't know, but I haven't like studied it in a
okay.
sense. Like, I'm sure there's better ways of learning all of this, but it's like, oh, I wish I like I'll be like, oh, I want this to be the top right corner. And it's like how to move, like using JavaScript with blah 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 to move something,
Yeah.
and then hope that someone has done it before me.
So for example, maybe for us to wrap up, the little frosted glass kind of thing.
Yes.
How How did you know that was possible? How did you look up how to do it? What was can you just kind of like walk me through how you
Yeah.
got to that point?
So I think I searched like falling snowflake CSS, and then I found this repository, which is what it's using. And then I just added like the examples later down into like my document in that way. But so there's a double-edged sword in front-end development, which is a lot of the basics like CSS and HTML is documented really, really well on like the W3 Stroll or like any Mozilla thing is like amazing.
Yeah.
And then all JavaScript um, libraries are not documented at all. Like so it's a very like duality of like, oh, this thing needs to be as small as possible. So we're also stimping on the documentation. So a lot of things is, but I find anything website related is very well documented online.
Nice. Nice.
So, but yeah, it's just, and then stealing, like really look at what other people do and then see like, what, how did they do it? And then like, you slowly learn from there.
Nice.
And then sometimes it's just not possible. That's also the thing of like,
Great. Well, Emil, thank you so much for preparing this talk, for sharing some of your slides with us. For those of you who want to learn more, Emil linked, of course, to the Quarto documentation, and then Emil also has some great blog posts about how to get started with colors and fonts, and then how to like move on to more advanced kind of slides. I think this is like such a useful topic for us to talk about because so many of us are in the business, right, or giving presentations internally, externally, and all these different ways. And so it's really really great to have important tools for this. So thank you for coming. We would love to see you next month at our meeting then. And if you are a local Salt Lake person, I encourage you to consider giving a lightning talk. It's super fun. Please sign up and have an idea there. And have a good day back from our Thanksgiving break and all that. And we'll see you next time.